everything in your life that you could possibly dream and more.
I agree.
Right? And it doesn't just come down to losing 20 pounds or, making sure that your husband is still interested in you or finding somebody that is and not playing the same cycle of guy, discard,
right.
because of the same similar situations you're going through. Because remember, same is going to attract same, and we're all a bunch of those dozen people, right? It's actually allowing yourself to feel happy knowing that you're building upon what just happened and you're recognizing the negative suggestion that's happening, that's putting you in a position where you get somewhat relief and then you'll do what you're told. It's actually embracing the suggestion to build the future that you want to build. And that's what I think casual hypnosis is. Now, I came up with this. I think I was on the phone with you. I think I was on the phone with you. And I realized that, hey, you really want to explore what this is. It's not just an hour with Glenn and Josh and other folks every Wednesday night. And it's not just, maybe taking the chance to join the Master Hypnotist Society or even the NGH and just exploring what your life can be. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in that position want to reaffirm that they're right and that their life was right up until that point. But there's no right or wrong. There's no way to do it wrong. And there's no failure. It's just embracing exactly what and how your mind works and using it and taking that trip into the things you could create in your mind, the feelings and the sights and the sounds, and exploring and pushing yourself and stretching beyond things that you thought were just part of life.
All right, well, ladies, what are your thoughts on that? Let's start with Michelle. Michelle, you know more about this than Cass does. How do you interpret what Josh just said? As far as how do you relate it to your experiences with hypnosis?
I mean, I think he said it great when he talked about hypnosis being a part of our day-to-day life.
Right.
I mean, just look at the advertising that we're exposed to.
Yeah.
And look at when you see McDonald's commercials on a little kids TV station. They don't talk about the food.
Right.
They show
Jingles.
kids playing and them hugging their parents and then the golden arches, right? And it's programming in that kid's head from a very young age to trust this brand. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a microcosm of what we experience on every level. From our parents, from the school, like at a very young age, we're told to behave and react a certain way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's why Josh is here to help us kind of break out of those things that we don't like.
Well, you go ahead.
Let me be clear here. What I'm not doing is asking people to put their reality on hold because we have a better answer. What I'm asking you to do is reconsider the perspective with which you see what you're going through and add some of the things that you can hear and feel here to what you want. That's it. We're not telling you to wad up and whatever you've done to this point and throw it in the trash can. What we're asking you, if you can imagine the possibilities available to you, if you add this to what you're going through, your goals, and allowing yourself to open up your mind to exactly what your life can be, both consciously and unconsciously. You have dreams. We all know that you dream. We all know that you have pictures in your mind of what you want your life to be, especially when it comes from within. So especially when it comes from your action, not making other people do things. There's a lot of different versions of yourself out there that you can imagine, you can paint a picture of and put out in front of you. And whether you want it to take 6 weeks or you want to see yourself in a year or 10 years or even a week or a day, it all could be changed if you qualify, if you have the right mindset.
But and as far as losing weight, you just jump on a scale and say, geez, I started doing this about 3 months ago when I was 230 pounds. Now I'm at 180. I don't need this anymore. Is it that simple?
So one of the best clients that I've had, I very rarely take anyone under 35 years old. Maybe even 40.
Wow.
Because they're still invincible.
Right.
No matter how bad it is.
Right.
Unless somebody that they love, that they've grown up with, just passed from a similar problem, it's tough.
Exactly.
So I had a kid come in Syracuse, and he was part of a well-known family in the area because they own restaurants. And the only thing he would eat at 29 years old was fish sticks, chicken tenders, and French fries. And he was shaped like a pear.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So at the end of his program, he only lost 6 pounds.
Wow.
But he had 46-inch shoulders and a 28-inch waist.
Wow.
And he was built, like, as they say, a shit brick house.
Yeah.
So that's how he changed his life. So it's a performance goal.
He looked like the dad of The Incredibles.
If you're even anywhere, I would say even under a certain age, under 60, maybe, whatever, and you're walking for exercise, if you've been stagnant for years, that's a good start. But I would never suggest that somebody just walk for exercise, because there's a part of you in your mind where you can see the way that your body's meant to be. There's a blueprint in your mind.
It's true.
And when you can explore that, I mean, you're going to feel how good you're going to feel, and how people are going to look at you is going to be night and day than what it is right now. That's what you want to explore. So you want to explore what your life can be. It's not just about losing weight. It's about shaping your body the way that you want it to be shaped, and goals that point towards performance. And then you've got to look at the fact of how much expensive it is to be overweight, to be sitting around and be lazy. And it's like a million little paper cuts. It's like, oh, I only spent $60 this week on junk food.
Right.
You know? But that's over $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
Fun.
So, all right. So, bad things happening at the house, affecting your work, your job. You're on the golf course and you can't make a 7-foot putt. These are one of millions of things that you deal with on a daily basis. So it must be a very interesting life being in your business.
I think it's the best job in the world.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be doing it because, you are your own man. You're working for yourself. But you know what? Not for nothing, Josh. You speak very highly of Scott, and Scott is the guy. How long have you known Scott, and when will we actually hear from him here on the Get Real podcast?
Hopefully soon. I'll be with him this weekend, and we'll probably schedule that this weekend.
All right. Well, let's get that going, because I know you admire Scott, and I'd like to know more about the guy that that definitely I look at it this way, Josh. He inspires you. So my next question is this: what got you started in hypnosis? How did it all begin for you?
Well, I read a book, and the book isn't super well received, and I read the book. And it mentioned NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is just the nerdy way of saying brain language.
Okay.
And then NLP and HUNA, which is something, it's like NLP, it's just Hawaiian. And then that led me to hypnosis, because hypnosis, or NLP, came from hypnosis.
The idea of reading someone really has to do with what their nonverbals are telling you. I mean, obviously, if somebody tells you what's really going on with them, you don't need sensory acuity. You don't need to be good at reading their nonverbals. But as we studied Virginia Satir, we find out that, as it turns out, many people are not safe enough to level with you. They're not safe enough. They're too afraid of embarrassment. They're too afraid of scrutiny. Maybe they're afraid of shame. So for a lot of reasons, they don't know how to even be real with themselves, let's say. So I found myself doing a lot of theater, plays. The beauty of that is you make a lot of very public mistakes. I'd be in summer touring companies, and you'd learn how to play off the other actors, and you could tell whether they were going to get it together or not get it together. You'd be doing all kinds of weird skills like juggling or dancing, right? So you'd have to get used to paying attention to all the other actors and actresses. You'd have to drop your ego, because if you were being a prima donna, really bad things would happen. If you were caught up in yourself, you'd screw up the whole play. You'd screw up the whole production. Sometimes there were hundreds of thousands of dollars out in production costs, and one person not paying attention to the rest of the people would cost you the whole thing. The other thing that seems to help with instinct with the read is having been stuck in the hospital a lot as a kid, which is also similar to Erickson, right? So you're just sitting there watching the nurses, watching people, and you can't really do anything. You can't get caught up in yourself. You're fantasizing and guessing, really guessing in your head what's going on. Excuse the steadiness of my phone for a minute, but you're guessing what's going on with those other people, aren't you?
Yes.
You're just making it up. But you have enough time to check whether you're right or not. The beauty of doing that when you're a kid is you're not threatening. You're just this 12-year-old heart patient laying in a bed or whatever, right? So people will tell you kind of whether you're on track or off track, right? So eventually, I started realizing how much time it took in my office for people to confess what was going on with them. And I found that it was more compassionate to sort of get it on the table or provoke a response that was considerate or confess for them and check if it was accurate.
Uh-huh.
And I would do that kind of the way that Connie Ray Andreas approached the beginning of reframing someone, where I would say, I'm curious, is it like this? I'm curious, is it like that? And then I would do my best guess and check it.
I hate to say it, but most people don't live that way. Most people's a person's favorite topic is usually themselves.
Yeah, true.
And here's what I'm asking for people today. If you just consider for 15 minutes today, when you're watching this, to step outside yourself and make sure that people benefit from interacting with you, just for that 15 minutes, you'll feel completely different. You'll feel it in your heart and your stomach. You'll feel your muscles relax. Your shoulders will go limp. And you'll notice that there's a different state you can be in that will allow you to more easily get your goal. You just got to let go of the tension and the need for control and the fear of not getting what you want. And eventually it will come to you. So you talk about reading the room, and that's a couple of steps away, but that's still very, very important. Because if you think about it, we've all been in a room with somebody that you don't want to be in because they're tense, or their behavior might seem a little off, or they might be intoxicated, or you might have just shown up at a completely awkward time.
True.
You don't know what just happened.
Timing is everything.
It's not as if the rules change. However, you do want to make sure that everything is safe, everything is good for you, and everything is good for everybody in the room. So it's important to still form relationships with those people and maybe even put it on pause, or leave them feeling good about you so they don't come and do something like, key your car or scream at somebody.
Watching the Get Real podcast with Josh and Kirnie, hosted by Glenn Curry. Each week, we dive deep into the hidden adventures and secrets found within the human mind. So be sure to like and subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you can know whenever new videos are uploaded. And if you need our contact information, you'll find that down below in the description box. Enjoy the show.
If you have somebody after you, it's because you're trying to escape something that you thought was going to kill you.
Well, that and I
normally
could
people don't
have
come
done
after
something
you.
wrong, and I deserve to get my ass kicked. But that's not the case. My case is
Out of desperation of staying alive. You did
Well,
something
yeah.
wrong.
Well, that's self-preservation too. But my thing is, I just feel like we're becoming so alienated that I almost look at complete strangers as potential enemies these days, because of the constant barrage of divide that I see online. I think that's entering our lives, and I think a lot of your clients are probably.
So you have
experiencing
that open forum where people can express either directly or indirectly the fact that they're consumed by fear.
Right.
And the people that act off of negative emotion the most tend to be on a different side of the spectrum than you and I.
Okay.
So the people that you'll find around us most of the time are acting on not preservation or deflection, right? Or avoidance, but they're actually acting on moving forward into the future. The people that are successful move forward into the future towards their goal, towards what their body will look like. A weight loss client hit a plateau until she added calories to her diet. And you think, what the hell is that? Well, she had more movement then, and she got more excited about exercise. She had more energy, and then she just jumped into the exact body that she wanted to have.
Isn't that something?
So you go through the frustration, you step through the obstacle into the new version of your life, rather than try to run around and avoid things that might hurt you.
Are we going into, reverse engineering, if you will, when we go into someone's life through hypnosis? I mean, reverse engineering is what the Chinese do very well. They take something that they couldn't create themselves, and they just take it apart and they look at it and say, oh, okay, this is how you do this. Are you doing the same thing when you're looking at someone's life, when you realize you had a lot of layers, you were born in 1975, you went through a divorce, you had a stepdad, you left, you went hitchhiking at the age of 17 years old across the country, all these, again, I'm making this up, this is all hypothetical, of course, but are you doing that analysis when you're dealing with your clients?
It depends on the client. It depends on what their ask is, what their request is. But a lot of times, what I need to do is I need to find where where it really began, where the seed was laid, that the behavior was extreme and that it's affecting them negatively now.
Right. Exactly.
because all the behaviors have purpose and they're providing something positive. And then, if we're looking at something else, like I have two students that are potentially brilliant, and you've spoken to one of them before. They have no idea who they are yet, but I can see the potential in both of them. And I have other students that are just starting, but you want to be able to find resource and resource states. So physiological and emotional states that work for them.
Right.
And also step-by-step processes that when you model it and you can spin it, you can actually reapply it to things that they're doing into the future and then build off of that. It's actually a fascinating process. I would never want to do anything else. I mean, I love being here with you, but honestly, dealing with each person individually and in groups, there's nothing better. You learn so much.
Oh, you do.
Well, if I could translate a little bit, what you're saying is that you were anticipating in a lot of the actions that have been taken by everybody is to avoid a negative response. And when you start taking control of that aspect of your mind, it becomes very empowering to let that go and use that function, use that very limited amount of conscious energy to plot out exactly how you want things to go. Casual hypnosis day to day. So actually, Cass has been hypnotized by me about 4 times.
Really?
She only realized she only realized it once because, she was always a volunteer because she could have walked away at any time. But when we were sitting talking, there are certain gaps in time when she forgot exactly what was being said.
Oh.
And those things were supporting her releasing the stress she had, also being able to see the relationship she has around her in a different way, to take the pressure off and realize that when you have perspective, everything becomes much, much easier.
And you have that soothing voice too.
Eventually, if you want to be successful in life, the things that are being pushed by a lot of media outlets just don't lead to success. They lead to excuses of why you don't want to be successful or what's scary about taking the chance. So we're in the midst, in the energy of a gentleman who's really pushed those boundaries that isn't related to the industry I'm in. I think there's really good energy in here to kind of cross fake lines or assumed boundaries that aren't really there, that have been established by almost like a collective media consciousness. And it is all, excuse me, thank you. It is all predicated on fear. So do you want to be motivated? If you're going to be motivated by fear, you might as well gain something out of it. If you're going to be motivated about being afraid that you're going to die, you might as well come and ask for help with dropping a compulsion that's killing you, or sometimes changing your priorities as to balancing yourself out with others, which we're getting a lot of lately. We're getting a lot of people in the clinic and a lot of people interacting with a hypnotist that I am affiliated with, and that I also train and help to train, and all the above, with people that don't have that balance. Watch one of our past episodes with Casual Leverage, you'll hear Michelle say that everybody has 10 in them. So I just want to remind you that pretty much anybody could have done that.
Could be a 10?
Yeah, it's true.
Sexually, visually, what are you saying? Or
In presentation,
yeah, sure.
In attractiveness, in intention, and success, and balance. So everyone has that in them, their own version of what 10 is. So it's very easy when you make a few minor adjustments to be able to calculate fear, right? And know that it's a part of our lives. And it really is a last resort to keeping you alive. So.
Well, they talk about self-preservation. If a big dog's coming at you, or
that's
when you realize how you can run faster than you ever. Look at
BuzzFeed isn't sending you a dog towards you.
Well, no, but just like in the 9/11, where you saw a lot of older people running away from the falling buildings, I don't think they ever ran that fast in their lives, but they did that day. So it is human nature to preserve ourselves in the worst case scenarios, and we don't know we have that until it happens.
Here you go. Slate.com.
Slate?
2 hours ago, Walmart, Trader Joe's, and Costco no longer require masks for customers.
Interesting. And the biggest reason why? Because their employees are tired of enforcing it, and I don't blame them.
I think that also that they were manipulated into that. But I want to say this right now. Slate isn't supporting that article. If I read further into it, which I'm not going to, but you could look up the article yourself here.
Right.
They're condemning those businesses for not demanding masks.
What's Slate? I don't know what Slate is.
It's a far leftist.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Outlet.
Yeah. like Huffington Post or something of that. Now there's a couple of liberal sites I've been on. The worst of all is Samantha Bee. I don't know if you've ever seen her. She's on TBS.
Oh, when she said that thing about Ivanka Trump, I just stopped.
Oh my God!
I don't pay attention to people like
I
that.
have to pay attention to it.
Grandstander.
And then I'm a troll because I go on their Facebook page. I don't know how. I never liked it, but it showed up on my timeline, and every now and then I'll comment on that, and I just get lambasted. Oh my God! They hate white conservatives there.
Where's that?
Samantha Bee.
No, where do you get lambasted?
Well, and that site on their Facebook group, where they just have, oh, Samantha, you're so smart, and everything she talks about is pro-transgender, anti-white male conservatives. We're the worst people in the world.
The thing is that all these things are in order for a reason, and it all leads to change, like every single step of the way. And the more people want to acquiesce to each step of the process, the faster they get beyond what they expected. So trusting the process is, again, something that is up in the air when, like, for instance, I was talking about how people can only see things from their own perspective, and that's what happens when you've got two warring factions raising kids. And remember, there's this huge divorce problem. I think when did it start? I don't know. Honestly, if everybody wants to know the true statistic, and I read this long ago as a journalism major, the highest divorce rate in American history was 1946.
Wow.
Just so everyone knows,
Wow.
right? And of course, there's so many guys coming home from the war.
Right, of course. That makes sense, sure.
Yeah, they were just in ridiculous shape. They sacrificed so much, including their own sanity sometimes. So, but when
not to mention
it
their
almost
lives
seemed
and legs
like
and limbs.
it was sold to us. The way I'm going to say this, Glenn, is it seemed like divorce was sold to us as a viable option,
Right.
and something that was normal. And I don't know, it was happening in the 80s. I know, but my parents were divorced, right? And then when both sides wanted to be active in molding the way that the child went, or wanted to be right, and there's still friction between the other former spouse, that's when you're going to get those two different sources of authority, and that's when you're going to get pulled. A person's going to get pulled in either direction and not know what the difference. A lot of the times, in what would affect them well and what would affect others well and would affect everybody well. So that's the first step in all of this, the first step in this conversation. Now, we were supposed to have a guest, and we will have this guest on. She will be on. And she's going to be an amazing interview, right, because of what she went through. And I'm not going to divulge her story, but she has some things to talk about that you wouldn't expect.
I can imagine.
And I think are fascinating things, especially when we talk about human behavior.
Sure.
So, there's a third step in all this, and that's what I think we're going through in the last, I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Like, I can't be taken to task with these numbers. I can't give you an exact number, but it's become more and more prevalent as I notice it getting older and older, and that is multiple sources of authority. That's the school system, the grandparents, the mom and the dad.
Stepdad. I mean,
but they're not on the same page. They all have their own priorities, right?
Yeah, right.
So this is where kids don't know the difference between right and wrong.
Interesting.
And their value systems are completely misaligned.
Right.
So they're in confusion.
Right.
Constantly, right? And they have no relevancy filter, relevant to what's right and what's wrong.
Right.